Hey, good morning, everybody. We're finishing up Mark chapter 7 today. And in this passage, there are two encounters that Jesus has with people that Mark wants us, I think one of the main things he wants us to understand is that Jesus is not speaking with Jewish people. He's speaking with Gentiles. And then the second one, we're not going to talk about that one very much, but I want you to read the whole miracle there. Jesus heals a guy who is deaf and with a speech impediment in a very unique way. You're going to want to read that. But I want to talk a little bit more about the first encounter. This is with a Gentile woman who was a Syrian Phoenician woman from the city of Tyre. Now, Tyre is about 30 miles to the north and to the east of the Sea of Galilee, the place where Jesus had been spending his time, Jesus' home. And it's right on the Mediterranean. And the people of Tyre had been enemies of the Israelites for a long time. It dates back to Queen Jezebel, who was a very, very evil queen from this area. And yet, somehow, this woman comes to Jesus. Now, a couple details here. Was Jesus alone? Well, if we look at just what it says in the book of Mark, the Gospel of Mark, we might think he is alone. But Matthew also records this particular miracle, and we find out that the disciples were with him. And we also ask the question, why would Jesus, who was a Jewish rabbi, go to a place like Tyre? And at first we might think that the whole reason was that he was seeking out a place to get away from the crowds and get some rest. But I think there's more to the story here. In yesterday's reading, Jesus was teaching his disciples, and he was teaching his disciples about these categories that had been set up about who was clean and who was unclean. And the Jewish teaching is that anyone who is a Gentile, anyone who is not a Jew, is unclean and clearly inferior. But Jesus chooses to go to this unclean region. Perhaps it was, as I say, to do more teaching. He wanted to continue to help the disciples learn how absurd it was to have categories of people who are clean and unclean. Now, if we read this passage, we notice that this woman seeks out Jesus. Perhaps she's heard of him from before. And she is a desperate mother. She is a Greek-speaking Syro-Phoenician mother, and she finds Jesus and she begs him to come and heal her daughter. Now, Mark records Jesus' response to her, and we pick that up in verse 26. It says, since she was a Gentile born in Syrian Phoenicia, Jesus told her, first I should feed the children, my own family, the Jews. It isn't right to take food from the children and throw it to the dogs. Now, how many of you think Jesus seems pretty rude right here? I'd have to raise my hand on that too. In other places, Jesus clearly states that he came for the whole world. His plan was for everyone, for Romans and Samaritans and Gentiles, not just for Jewish people. Why does he say just his own children and Israel and not the dogs? Why does he seem so exclusive here? Now, though his response does seem rude, I think Jesus was up to something else here. It could be that Jesus, as I said before, was hoping that his disciples would jump in with what he said, that Jesus had been teaching them about clean and unclean, and when it comes to people, and that partiality is not a part of God's plan, and he was hoping that the disciples would jump in. But clearly that didn't happen. And though his words did sound demeaning, it could also be that he says it in such a way that he was encouraging the woman to respond. And we find out that she does respond very quickly. In fact, she responds kind of playfully. She says, that's true, Lord, but even the dogs under the table are allowed to eat the scraps from the children's plates. Now, notice that she still calls him Lord, and she replies with grit and with confidence. And as I said, even in a very confident and playful way. she's maybe just paraphrasing what she was saying is, I will even be a Gentile dog as long as I can get some of the crumbs, the blessings that come from God. I'll bet you have a crumb even for my daughter and me. I'll bet you do, Jesus. And Jesus loved her answer. Jesus loved her answer. In verse 29, he answers, "Good answer," he said. "Now go home, for the demon has left your daughter." If Jesus had been hiding his graciousness and his greatness in the answers before, the veil comes off right here, and his love for all people, his desire to destroy the categories of partiality are so clear here. This encounter and many others would move the Apostle Paul later to write in Galatians 3:28. He wrote these verses. He says, "There is no longer Jew nor Gentile, slave nor free, male and female, for you are all one in Christ Jesus." And now, in those places where we go out today and see partiality of any kind, may we learn to be more like Jesus, to be agents of healing in a world that's really known for division right now. And may his grace and peace fill your encounters today, your encounters with other people, and may you be an agent of healing. Go and have a great day.
If these devotional videos are helpful to you, subscribe to our channel and click the notification button so you know when we post a new video. And of course, please share them with others.